Oh, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is the final game of the Armageddon, Nova Armageddon, and the match is between Magnus Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi, both world champion versus the world champion competitor. We have Magnus now with the black pieces and Nepo with the white pieces. So Jan opens with e4, e5, knight to c3, knight to c6, normal developing the knights. Black is protecting his knight, white is protecting his knight. You have bishop to c4, a Vienna game, developing the white slide square bishop, and also Nepo is ready to play knight to f3 and castle. Knight to f6 from Magnus, putting pressure on this e4 pawn. We have d3, just Nepo adds some more protection to this e4, and also he's ready to develop his dark square bishop. Knight to b4, attacking the light square bishop. We have a bishop back to b3, and Magnus captures the bishop. We have a captures on b3. Now we have the Nepo has developed pawns on the b file, but he has opened up his rook, and maybe he can bring his rook into the game. We have d5 from Magnus striking in the center. Maybe if Nepo rejects the trade, he can go to d4 and attack the knight and gain more space. Captures on d5, knight captures on d5. We have queen to h5 from Nepo. He's trying to go for this e5 pawn and give a check. And Magnus ignores it and goes knight to b4, also going for this check and fork the rook and the king. We have queen captures on e5 with check, bishop to e7. Now Magnus is also ready to castle. Queen back to e2. And we have castles. Now white should be careful here. Magnus has the ideas of e8, moving his bishop and pinning the queen to the king. Of course, Nepo sees this and he plays bishop to e3, getting his queen out of danger, and now the queen can. We have e5. Actually, queen to e2 also to prevent knight to c2 ideas from Magnus. Knight to f3. Nepo, depending on the situation on the board, he may castle on the either side. We have a4, giving this knight some more protection. h3. Nepo maybe is ready to get his knight to g2 and on g4, and maybe open up the h file. b6 from Magnus. Magnus is planning to get his light square bishop developed by putting it on b7, and you're gaining control of this free diagonal and weakly controlled diagonal. Castles from Nepo, and we have bishop to b7. We have rook to c1, and we have bishop to f6. Also, both bishops are gaining control on the either side of the board. On the opposite sides, we have d4, and we have d7 from Magnus. Magnus now connects his rooks and also develops his queen. d1, and just getting on the lane of this king, and maybe there can be some threatening moves from white. We have d8, getting all these pieces together, and now Nepo offers a queen trade, and Magnus for now declines it, and he will be ready. He plays queen to c8. Now everything is excellently protected. Now this queen can't do anything. Your queen to h5. Since Magnus has rejected the queen trade, now Nepo decides to get his queen into the game and start attacking on the king side. Now maybe his bishop can come to h6, and after the pawn create some threats. Maybe queen can jump to f6 and box the king in this triangle, blocks the black king. Magnus doesn't like any bishop to h6 ideas, and he plays h6. Queen to g4. Now Nepo can capture on this h6 pawn, and maybe he also his knight can come into the game. So Magnus now accepts the queen trade and captures on g4. We have h captures on g4. We have rook to d7. We have rook to d2. Both players are trying to double up their rooks, but Magnus closes up the position by playing g5. Knight to d1, giving this bishop kind of the knight will come out sometime. We have rook back to d8, and we have c3 attacking the black knight. Knight back to d5, also not allowing any further pushes from white. Knight to h2. We have king to g7. Knight back to f1, and we have king to g6. Now Magnus is getting his king into the game. We have f3, and we have h5. We have captures on h5. King captures on h5. Nepo plays bishop to f4, preventing king to advance further. King back to g6, and we have knight to e3. Now this knight is excellently placed, and Magnus Nepo offers a knight exchange. Bishop back to e7. Maybe Magnus is ready to play at d6 and get control of this diagonal. We have knight captures on d5, and we have bishop captures on d5. c4, harassing the bishop. Now these pawns are monster pawns. They can be pushed anytime. Bishop back to e6, and we have d5, further harassing the black side square bishop. First, Magnus threatens the rook on d2 by playing bishop to b4. Rook moves back to d1, and now Magnus moves his bishop to d7, getting away from this threat. Knight to e3. We have f4. Knight back to c2, putting pressure on this bishop, and maybe after the pawn captures bishop, maybe if Magnus doesn't is okay for a trade, his pawns are kind of locked up, and they can't advance on this queen side. Bishop back to d6, and we have knight to d4. Now this board squares can be excellent outpost for the knight. g4, clearing up some space on the king side, and maybe Magnus can start attacking on this h file. g3, closing up the position a bit. We have captures on f3, and knight captures on f3. We have rook to e2. Now Magnus tries to get control of this second rank, and also attacking this pawn. And Magnus simply plays d2. Doesn't like anything to be exchanged here, and he offers a rook trade, and Magnus happily captures the rook, and knight captures on d2, and we have rook to e8. Now this rook is also threatening to come to e2. We have rook to rook to d1, defending this knight. f3, challenge this pawn. He captures on f4, and bishop captures on f4, attacking the knight too. Knight moves to f3, and we have rook to e2, putting pressure on this pawn, and we have bishop to d4, simply defending this pawn. Now this bishop is also well placed, but this knight is undefended. We have bishop to g4, attacking this knight. Now the knight moves, so let's somewhere over here. Maybe the rook can deliver a check, and after the king takes the rook, this black's bishop can also pick up this free rook. So Nepo instead defends his knight instead of moving it. King to f5. Now this king is very active in the game. Magnus is threatening to come to e4 and challenge this bishop and this f3 knight. We have d6, and we have captures on d6. Bishop captures on d6, and bishop captures on f3 knight. We have rook captures on f3, and we have rook captures on b2. Now Nepo attacks the rook on b2. Magnus delivers a check, and we have king to f2. We have king to uh, uh, king to e4, attacking this bishop, and also maybe Magnus can now go for this check, and after king takes, and maybe he can take the and he can take up this rook, but that would be kind of a draw, like a beating moves. So uh, bishop to g6, bishop has to get away from this threat. Rook to h1. Now Magnus is threatening this check, and after the king moves, is threatening to pick up this white rook for free. Rook to c3, getting on the defense of this bishop. Check. Uh, we have king to f1, and we have bishop to e3. This beautiful bishop is controlling this diagonal, and this king is kind of locked up. We have c5. Nepo hoping something. We have c capture, d captures on c5, check, and king to f3. And it was in this position that Nepomniachtchi resigned the game, as it's almost a checkmate, and there's nothing you can stop from black doing it. Maybe you can go for a rook check, and but after the king takes, it would be pointless to giving up the rook for free. But even then, white is only still surviving for a small time. I hope you guys enjoyed the game. Magnus has won the tournament, and he's been my favorite player like ever. I just like the way he plays. So please let me know in the comments about your thoughts on this game. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thank you.